Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. First of all, thank you so much for subscribing, and if you're new here, please go down and like and subscribe. It helps me a lot to continue this channel. Now moving on, in this very particular video I'm going to show you how I edit my travel and street photography using Silkypix Developer Studio Pro 10, and I will do further retouching in Affinity Photo, just like you would use combination of Lightroom and Photoshop. Now moving on, first of all, I've got a raw file by Fuji film. The photo is taken with f4 at the 1/30th of shutter speed and ISO 200. So it's pretty nice looking and sharp, but needs a lot of work. So normally in any kind of editing, I start with lens aberration controller, basically lens correction. So because it's Fuji, so I don't need to really do any kind of lens correction. Neither I have to do any kind of chromatic aberration, but I highly recommend you to start with the lens correction first. Now, second step will be my white balance. Now, this particular photo can go in any direction. It can be really nice, beautiful color photography, or it can be really beautiful black and white. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm basically starting directly with my color, turning into black and white. And because I'm going to do the black and white, so I don't think I need to do further white balance correction. So I'm going straight to my profile. And because it's Fuji, so I think I can take advantage of Fuji's famous film simulation. As you can clearly tell, the color setting says is vivid. If you are not sure, you can go to the metadata and then click directly to the metadata selection, and it says vivid. And the photograph looks beautiful. I really love this color, the tone, the simplicity of it. But because it's a minimalist type of photograph, I think it looks really nice black and white and printed on the wall. So I'm gonna turn the sidebar off so that I can have more workspace to work with. Now in the color representation, I have plenty of choices, and sometimes, you know what, the plenty of choices can be a bad thing because you have too many choices to work with. So you need to know pretty much well advanced exactly what you want for your photograph. Even though I said I'm going to turn it to black and white, but we're gonna go one at a time. So this is Provia. As you can clearly see, the Provia it's not really bad either, and it was already earlier in vivid. That's fine. This is how Astia looks like. Not really far from each other. They all look good. Classic chrome, this is one of my other favorite. Like if I'm trying to make a minimalist photograph, but I don't want any kind of aggressive oversaturated color, I always tend to go with the classic chrome. But now I imagine that you are watching this video and you don't have neither Fuji or neither Silkypix Developer Studio Pro. For those folks, if you're using any other camera, always try to use the most neutral profile available in your camera and work your way up. By doing so, you have more room to work with, because I imagine you're already shooting raw, so you can always change it in post. So generally, if you have just simple shapes and photos to work with, my recommendation to go with anything similar to classic chrome or any kind of muted flat look. Pro Neg High is my other favorite, but generally I used to use it for videography, so that it gives automatically a really beautiful film look. When it comes to Fuji, I'm a big fan of Acros black and white. As you can clearly see, it's giving a beautiful minimalist look. I just love it. Same with the yellow filter, red and green. They are not really far from each other, and these are the just basic black and white. You know what, I'm going to stay with Acros, just plain Acros, and stay there. So we have done that. Now obviously I'm going to do some more work. My first talk will be bringing up some shadow, because yes, I like it black, but this is way too strong for me. So I'm going to bring some shadow back. So I'm gonna go to my Dodge HDR. So Dodge HDR basically a shadow slider, but a bit more precise in Silkypix Developer Studio Pro, meaning that it always starts from the darkest part first before it's heading towards the brightest part. So what it means that it's not like shadow slider. Shadow slider basically work globally. So Dodge HDR, it's slightly different, but don't worry, if you don't have it, you can always use curve. So I'm going to show you how I do this slider first. As you can see that I brought some shadow back thanks to Fuji extras. I mean, it has a lot of information to work with. But what if you don't have this slider? In that case, do not use shadow, go straight to curve and pull the shadow RGB slider up like that. You can see that it's already opening, but it has a really nice kind of flat look, which I like it, but at this moment I don't. So what I can do, I can pull it down a little bit, so it gives a little bit of contrast, and it gave almost the similar as Dodge HDR. You know what, I'm going to stick with the curve one because I'm imagining that you don't have exact same software, probably. In that case, this is how you bring your shadow up. Do not use the shadow slider. I don't really like it, and you don't have much of a control. Shadow and highlight slider and contrast slider, those three sliders I tend not to use a lot. Anyway, now in the tone section, I like to add a slightly touch clarity, not too much. Clarity slider is a very dangerous slider, which means that you can make a photograph looks extremely ugly just with one slider. So yeah, I don't really like to use it too much. Photograph looks already phenomenal. So in that case, only thing I've got left is cropping. Now I imagine this photograph as in not really square format, but almost square. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. I'm going to just crop a notch because I want this space right in the middle of the grid. So that is going to be the center of the attention. So I'm going to bring this one up a little bit. So as you can see, my one line is the one part of the door gate, and the other one is the other gate. So as you can see, it's like I want my viewer to go through this alleyway. That's the feel that I'm looking for. And I could crop down just a little bit, but you always should have, you don't overcrop it. You know why? Because if you want to print a photograph and put it on wall, you need extra empty space for names, for logos, even for your frame. So imagine that your frame going to take up some of the space. So pay attention to that. Now I'm done. I'm going to turn off my crop, and it looks good. It looks good so far. So last thing I gotta do is a test, because sometimes I always have something in my mind which is a question. Question is what if? So what if it was like extreme strong contrasty photograph? What if I did that? What if I just turn up the contrast way up? How would it look? So I'm gonna turn up the contrast, like pull it front and back, and this is how the contrasty photo would look like. Now here is the information that you probably didn't know. If you are in digital, this is how the photo would look like in your screen, digital screen. But if you're printing a photograph, you always want to make the photo a bit more flat, like I originally did, because the printing generally tend to crush the black, which I didn't know earlier, so I learned in a hard way. So that's why I tend to bring up the shadow, because I know that when I'm printing a photograph, it's generally going to bring it back to original black that I intended for. Now I'm done. I think I'm good with that. So the last thing I want to do, which is bringing up my demosaic sharpening. So demosaic sharpening, I mentioned in my previous video, but obviously for those who are new in this channel, I'm going to explain. Demosaic sharpening is essentially the input sharpening. Now, if you're using Lightroom, DxO, Capture One, or any kind of other software, generally they do input sharpening on their own with using their algorithm based on your raw file. But some software allows you to manually input the demosaic sharpening, including Silkypix Double Pro Studio Pro and Raw Therapy, which is brilliant. I think it's it does a very good job, and you have more freedom to work with. But by any means, I don't mean to say that the other softwares are not good. It's just the result going to be slightly different because of the camera, because of the software, because of anything. I'm going to bring it back to 83. The reason why I choose 83, because you can see a little mark there, right? Can you see? That's the one. So that's the algorithm of Silkypix Double Pro Studio Pro saying that this is how much you should add demosaic sharpening for this particular photograph. Noise reduction, because it's a black and white, noise is the last thing that I worry about, honestly, because combination of black and white and Fuji file and Acros, the noise turn into a bit of like a beautiful grain, which is kind of I like. I mean, this is probably one of the best thing that I used personally. Now, what else? After this part, I usually bring my photos over to Affinity Photo for a few things. One, if I have any kind of lens dust spot, any kind of unwanted things that I want to get rid of. In this particular photograph, if I zoom in let's say about 100%. Now I'm going to do a swap. I'm going to turn off all the panels so that I have more space to work with and I can see the photo better. Now I'm going to do a quick swap that if the photo looks all right. So there are no problem whatsoever when it comes to that spot. Because it's 100% zoomed in, so obviously nothing look as sharp as it was originally when I kind of zoomed back, as you can clearly see. Don't stress if you see the road looks a bit blurred, because that's because it's 100% zoomed in, which is never good. So in this case, I'm going to terminate this edit right now. Only thing is bothering me right now, I think I could even crop the photo a lot more. In that case, I will try to bring this a lot more. I think, a bit more cropping wouldn't be a bad idea. So not too much, just about there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I always want this particular part right in the middle. So that's my objective here. Yeah, I mean, not bad really. It didn't change much, but it made the file slightly smaller, but that's fine anyway. This is my advice to you. If you want to spend less time in front of editing program, and if you already have a vision, try your best to take good photograph at the very beginning. I hope this video is very useful to you. If so, please do like and subscribe. And if you like to buy my print, the link in the description below. Share, like and subscribe, and that will help me a lot to progress in future to make some more videos. I wish you all the best and take care of yourself. Bye bye.